Okay, Luke, have you got anything funny to say?
I'm not sure. Man United.
Yeah, against Valencia.
I want to see it last night.
Yeah, was that fun? Did you enjoy it?
Not really, to be honest.
Would you describe Man United as lackluster?
Yes, that would be an understatement.
That's how I saw them described in an article I happened to see, and I was thinking to myself, ha. And that's the reason why we didn't do the podcast at the usual time. It's of course terrible because usually we're so consistent with the podcast.
Oh yes.
But you had to do this. You had to go see Man United lose.
Draw.
Yeah, I thought I did. I actually knew they drew, but See, one time actually. Do you remember that time when Newcastle came back from 4-0 down against Arsenal?
Oh
I assume
yes.
you do. When that happened though. I was late to watch the game, as I so often am with these things. And I saw someone on Facebook who supports Chelsea say, oh, great, Arsenal lost against Newcastle. And I was like, oh, no, Arsenal lost. And then I was watching this game, and I was thinking, hold on a minute, it's been... they're 4-0 up. How can they possibly lose? And, of course, they ended up drawing. But, yeah, I guess in that person's mind it was like it was drawing was equivalent to losing. It might as well... Yeah. Have lost. So in some sense, and it's kind of weird the way it works because obviously, if you go from drawing to losing, you've only lost 1 point, whereas if you go from winning to drawing, you've lost 2 points. So really, you're better off losing than drawing because then you've only lost 1 point.
Yeah,
that makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. It's like a 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead in football.
Yeah, I hate. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know.
You never want to go 2-0 up.
Yeah. 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup.
Yeah, that's relevant.
Anyway, so I'll do the actual intro now.
Back up, chump, Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get. With the hoods, fatigues, with the boots, with trees. Flipping trees, making crazy cheese. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Volvos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wet in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox. Grip the clock when I walk down the crowded blocks. Just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out and blow the motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to I had too much of a build-up, and it doesn't especially help because I've actually got like a tiny bit of a sore... Well, not like a sore throat, more like a tickly cough. I may cough at one point during this. Anyway, hello and welcome to Select and Reflect Movie Review Podcast, where we look at films that come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I am your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are looking at Spider-Man 3... to celebrate Venom, and I think I'm right about that, Luke, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So that great film that I don't know. I mean, I've heard people complain, say, "Oh, Venom's not going to be good." So I don't know. Is it going to be good, Luke?
Well, I've heard. Are you typing, by the way?
Yeah. Sorry, I was kind of fiddling around with my Excel thing.
All right.
So
okay.
just power through it, Luke.
Okay. So I heard that Venom was basically a pre-modern superhero movie, like it came from 2004, 2005, that kind of superhero movie.
Wow.
Just the same old plot tropes and it's probably going to be below average, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And that is Sony, just to clarify.
That is Sony.
So, I mean, so you know the theory. I feel like I might have mentioned this before on the show, but I think about it a lot. You know that theory that lizards are in charge of the world.
Yes.
See, sometimes I think it must be true because how can people whose entire job you think about we've got Theresa May as Prime Minister and Sony as a major film company. You just think there are 7 billion people on the planet. How can it be that the one person in the UK who is in charge of politics is just so awful at it? How can it be that one of the major companies that's making films just makes such terrible decisions? I really think that these lizards who don't actually understand human beings, they kind of just say, "Hey, do you want to be in charge of a movie company?" And the guy's like, "Okay, but I don't know what makes a good film." Which I assume is what lizards sound like.
Yeah, that sounds like a lizard.
Yeah. And that's my theory. Anyway, what do we usually do? You budget. You tell us a bit. Sorry, Luke, why don't you tell us a bit about Spider-Man 3?
Certainly, Michael. So, Spider-Man 3 It's a 2007 American superhero film based on the fictional Marvel Comics character Spider-Man. It was directed by Sam Raimi, from a screenplay by Raimi and his older brother, Ivan and Alvin Sargent. So, it was based on Stan Lee's Spider-Man, of course. It stars Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Thomas Hayden Church, Topher Grace, Bryce Dallas Howard. By the way, I didn't know that was Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh yeah, I did. I did. Well, I know it because of my research. My important research.
I knew it was.
You knew it when you saw her.
Yeah.
The second time. Okay.
Initially, I didn't know she was in the movie.
Yeah.
Rosemary Harris and J.K. Simmons and James Cromwell are also in it. It was released on May the 4th, 2007 was its proper release in the United States. And do you want to have a go at the budget, Michael?
I'm guessing it was quite high because, this was the third movie. I think they would have had quite a bit of confidence in this. I'm going to go... See, I find I often go for like the hundreds and it's always wrong, but it just feels so right in my head, like if I go for like 105 million.
Is that what you're going with?
Yeah.
It's 258 million.
Oh, well, you know what, Luke?
That is a lot, especially for 2007. This must have been like pre-crash, just before the crash. Yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, I was never going to guess that. That's ridiculous. But yeah. Wow.
Yeah. This is crazy. What about the box office? How much did it make?
I feel like it made a lot. Like, I'm going to guess it made 3 times its money back, so it's 258. I'm going to guess 774 million. I think that's 3 times 258.
If that is, that's impressive. But the actual box office is 891 million.
Okay. So, well, yeah. I mean, the important thing is it doesn't matter that I got it. What matters is I think I got that maths right. Let's check. I've got the Excel open. So 258. I've already fucked this up. I should have put an equals at the beginning. Times 3. Oh, for fuck's sake. I just pressed times 2, that's why. 774. What did I say?
That's what you said.
Yeah! I used my quick maths. My 2 plus 2 is 4 minus 1.
That's 3 quick maths. Yeah, that's a bit of me. But by the way, actually, the box office for Spider-Man 3 is the highest in the trilogy, I believe. It made the most money out of all 3 films.
I'm kind of not surprised by that, because, I don't know, I mean, so it kind of leads to an important, because obviously I feel like you're saying, like, oh, it made more than those 3 films, with the implication, Luke, that maybe there is something that might imply that this film shouldn't have made more than the other 2 films. So I have to ask you, Luke, did you like this film?
I'm going to say no, Michael, I did not.
Well, you know what, Luke? Okay, this is weird, because yesterday, last week, I was mentioning how there was a famous miscommunication between us, where you thought we were watching a different film, but I said, that I've watched the first 2 films more times than I can remember. I've only watched the third film once. I watched it again, and this is my opinion on the film, straight from the heart. I liked this film, but for a few very discrete things, and I'm kind of going to go into, I think we'll talk about it, a bit more, and because I'm mostly going to talk about liking the film. I think, by and large, I'm going to kind of have positive things to say, except for a few very specific things, so it's kind of like a weird situation, and I think why it's a weird situation, I'll probably explain why it's a weird situation, because there's some behind-the-scenes stuff I sort of know about the film, but it's not really relevant now. I think it'll be useful to talk about later. I guess now you say the plot. We always get so confused about the beginning. We should have put it out, but I think tell us the plot, Luke.
Certainly, Michael. So the plot, well, it's a bit of an issue, isn't it, with this movie? Basically, Peter Parker, he's going through some tough times with Gwen Stacy, with Mary Jane.
Yeah, I feel like you said Gwen Stacy first by accident there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know really, Michael, how I'd summarize the plot. And it's one of the issues with it's kind of like the Last Jedi, when I couldn't tell you what actually happened. It's like a load of stuff happens, and we're back to where we started.
Okay, I would say it's like plot threads. So there's the resolution to the Harry wondering if Spider-Man killed the Green Goblin arc. There's the will Peter and Mary Jane get together arc. There's, of course, the resolution to the who killed Uncle Ben arc. And then there's the resolution to that character, Eddie Brock. played by Topher Grace, that arc, which we all love. And Peter's famous rivalry with Eddie Brock at the Daily Bugle.
Yeah. There's so much going on in this movie.
Yes, there is. But even when there's lots going on, it doesn't really work. I was going to say, even when there's lots going on, we can still find nitpicks. That doesn't make any sense at all. But nitpicks.
Yes, nitpicks.
How many you got, Luke?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right, okay, so I actually only have 4.
Oh.
There was kind of another example of, I probably could have got more, but I just thought, what usually happens is if I think I'm going to get relatively few, there's people, can you hear people just, cooling around to each other in my house?
I genuinely can't.
Okay, good, I'm glad. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, so basically I don't have as many as I probably could. But yeah, since I've got fewer, I'll go first. Now, I do actually want to say one, because I've got one written down here which isn't a nitpick. But I was surprised, because I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't. I wrote down, does CPR work when someone has suffered brain trauma? Because I thought that Harry was going to smash his head against a thingamabob, and then get CPR, and then be, brought back to life, which of course wouldn't make any sense. But that didn't happen. But I just wanted to say that I thought it was going to happen, and it didn't.
Oh.
Great. Okay, these are my other ones. Kind of ridiculous as my nitpicks always are, but so there's a scene. This is kind of one of those actual nitpicks that's of the filmmaking, which is very rare in this show. Usually our nitpicks have nothing to do with the filmmaking, but there's a scene that's setting up Sandman running away, and it's the most unnecessary scene on the planet. Basically, this guy walks up to another guy and says, "Hey, look. Here's a person," and he holds up a mugshot, and then he says, "We're following him, and he's running away." And then it cuts to Sandman running away, and it was so bizarre because I was like, "Hold on, why wouldn't you just cut to Sandman running away? We've already seen Sandman. He's already been introduced to us, or Flint Marko, I guess I should call him. We've already seen Flint Marko at this point, and it was literally just a genuinely minute-long scene, maybe even 40-second long scene, and it's just, here's Flint Marko, a character the audience already knows. He's a criminal, something the audience already knows. He's running away, something the audience already knows. We're pursuing him to this area, something the audience is literally just about to find out when it cuts to him running through this area. Which is just just the most bizarrely unnecessary, in the whole history of this show, it's the most unnecessary scene I've ever seen.
Wow.
And then, right off the bat of that, of course, there's the line, "It's probably a bird, it will fly away when we start it up." Just such a stupid line. I just think it would have made so much more sense if they just wouldn't have had that, just had them not notice it. I don't know, whatever. Actually, almost all of mine are Sandman related. This is surprising. I didn't realize this as I was writing it, because, so I'm surprised that Sandman didn't realize the effects of water earlier. Quite late on in the film, I think over the halfway point, Sandman hits some water, or gets hit by some water, and starts to dissolve, and he's looking at it in shock, and I'm thinking, does this smelly mofo not shower or anything? Is it not rained? How is he only just realizing the effects water has on him at this point in the film?
Yeah, surely he tried to take a drink of water.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
dissolve him.
His jaw drops off.
Yeah.
And finally, who flips an omelette?
You do it if you're rich, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of a reason.
I don't know. I just the whole point of an omelette is that you kind of you cook it flat, then you put the toppings in, then you fold it up, and then it's done. That's how you do it. You don't fold it up and then flip it. You lunatic. You rich wanker. Anyway, Luke, I'm guessing that none of yours were any of those, so I'm looking forward to hearing your 9 nitpicks.
Yep. Here's the thing, I could have added more.
Oh, actually, I do want to give one that is kind of CinemaSinsy. Maybe you've written this one down.
Go for it.
The credits were ridiculously long.
No.
Which they are in all the Spider-Man films. The opening credits, I always just skip through them, and they I can't believe it.
I guess so. So, Michael, 9 nitpicks. Here we go. I could have put more in, but I decided to leave some of them for the plot.
Yeah.
So, first off, when the crane hits the building that Gwen Stacy is in. By the way, again, what a remarkable coincidence that someone Peter knows is in trouble. But anyway,
so the will of the Force.
Yes, will of the Force. So the crane hits into a building, and Gwen Stacy is hanging off the edge of the building, about to die. And both her boyfriend, obviously Brock, Edward Brock, and her father seem remarkably calm, considering she's hanging off the end of a building and, might be a few seconds away from dying. The boyfriend is like, oh yeah, I'm dating your daughter.
I thought that scene was just like, it's kind of ridiculous because it's almost like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, so they're dating, because obviously I couldn't really remember it. I was like, oh, they're dating. I was like, wait, hold on, they can't be dating. I must have just misheard that because he's not acting as if he's dating this woman.
Yes,
so, yeah.
I was like, imagine if she fell on the floor and then he just goes to her dad, well, I guess I'm not dating her anymore. Yeah.
And it looks at the camera, and goes, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah. So, and even her dad, Captain Stacy, like, when he sees his daughter hanging off a building, his reaction is, what's she doing up there? Instead of, oh my god, my daughter!
That goofy roofie! Come down here, you goofy roofie!
He's just mildly surprised. Like, that is her. What's she doing there? Thankfully though, Spider-Man saves her, so it's all okay. By the way, actually this is one of my nitpicks, and I guess it's not really a nitpick, but I got from that scene I got a good idea. Like, imagine if Spider-Man was around on 9/11. Like, it would have been an ideal time for him. Think about it. It's saving all those people in New York that could have that jumped to their death, obviously.
Yeah, and then people would have accused him of orchestrating it as like a PR stunt. And it would be like Spider-Man truthers. It would be great.
Spider-Man did 9/11. That would definitely. If Spider-Man did exist in the real world, I would definitely.
See, that's the thing. Like, nowadays, with the kind of just shock humor for shock humor's sake, like that's what, that scene in the original Spider-Man where it's like interviewing all the different people about Spider-Man, and one's just like, he thinks and I don't like him. And it's just like showing like, oh, New Yorkers hate Spider-Man. So you just have like, if you did that nowadays, you just have some guy like, Spider-Man did 9/11.
Yeah. The thing is, the first Spider-Man movie came out in 2002. So, if it came out in 2001...
it was still a hot button issue then. Back then, people still accepted that it was the Muslims, but then they realised it was the government, the Zionists. I don't know, for some reason people decided that they hated Jews more than Muslims.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's always a hot debate.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to know which one. Like, which one did 9/11? Was it the Muslims or the Jews?
Who knows? So, and it could be the Christians, because obviously if George Bush orchestrated it.
But I feel like evangelical Christians are, of course, conservatives. They're people who say, Israel is our greatest ally, in that voice. That's what they do, and that makes them conservative. And they say things like, Democrats are the real racists. That's what I learned, like, is the difference between, like, a conservative and a racist, or an alt-righter, is a conservative would accuse the Democrats of racism by saying things like, welfare is a racist policy to keep black people dependent on the government, whereas a racist would say, yeah, I'm racist, what of it?
Yeah, it's like, an alt-right would be like, no, we're the racist ones.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like a virtue.
They're laying claim to, they're like, no, we're racist, don't give them the title of racist. Conservative says something like, the Republicans are the party of Lincoln.
Yes.
So, I mean, at least the racist gets points for accuracy by pointing out that the modern-day Republican Party is possibly not the party of Lincoln.
Yes. I think we've gone off topic, Michael. I do think that.
So what was your nitpick? It was that you hate conservatives.
Yeah, basically. Next up. So, Peter... Oh, this is kind of like the one before. So, Peter basically knows Gwen Stacy, and Gwen Stacy's boyfriend is a photographer, just like Peter is, who wants a job at the Daily Bugle, just like Peter does. It's just how crazy small New York actually is.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you could make this, like, these criticisms could be made of the entire Spider-Man trilogy. Like, just Peter's mentor, who's like, who was his professor, turns into Dr. Octopus. And also, his name was Otto Octavius. I mean,
Peter's best friend's dad happens to be the Green Goblin who's terrorizing the city.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wow.
If you watch Spider-Man...
I think you just have to give, like, the thing is, that's been the case. I mean, I think you just have to accept that, like, it's just Spider-Man logic. I don't know why, for some reason, just Spider-Man, it's just how it works. And it doesn't work like that in any other superhero thing, does it? Like, Batman doesn't know Mr. Freeze until he's Mr. Freeze. There's no other superhero property where that's like such an integral part of it.
Yeah, I don't
So,
know.
yeah.
I don't know. If you watch Spider-Man, you'd think New York's population was so much smaller than it actually is.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's kind of just like a village, but it has high rises.
Everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my next one. Okay, this is one. Unless Sandman planned this, then okay, but I really don't think he did. So Sandman is walking down the street.
Okay, here's the thing. Sorry, for a moment I thought you were referring to Sam Raimi, of course, the director of this film, as Samram. I thought you said Samram. I thought you were like, oh, is that your name for Sam Raimi?
No,
like,
only
like,
his close,
Samram. Yeah,
only his close personal friends call him Samram.
Samram.
Yeah. So Sandman, he gets spotted by the cops as he's walking down the street, and there just happens to be a massive truck of sand right next to him, so he can hide in it.
Yeah,
and get big. It's just brilliant. It's just fucking brilliant. So next up, Peter Parker is getting the key to the city, as Spider-Man, obviously, and he hangs upside down, lowers himself, and Gwen Stacy is, of course, being urged to give him a kiss. And I just think it's like totally out of character for Peter Parker to ask Gwen Stacy to kiss him. Like, you could have still had that and the Mary Jane getting pissed at him or whatever, but it could have been the other way around. Gwen Stacy could be like, "Can I kiss you? You saved me." And Peter's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, whatever." But like, I just think it was because obviously Peter's like quite shy, quite reserved. He loves Mary Jane. Like, asking Gwen Stacy to kiss him is just like, that's just totally out of character.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down. I'll interrupt you now, Luke, because I did actually write something down for the plot, which I think is very relevant. I'll just write it on now because I've got a lot to say about all of the plot, so I'll just get some of it out of the way early. Basically, Spider-Man is a dick, and I liked aspects of him becoming a jerk, which I think we will get into. But the problem with like things like that is that there's like not very much room for improvement because it's kind of like I like the idea of this is kind of getting into the actual review aspects. But I like the idea of like, he's going crazy because he's so famous, or like, he's being a bit of a jerk because he's famous. But then he's literally just like, "Hey, kiss me, bitch." They'll love it.
Oh god.
And he slaps her ass. And he's like, "Get going, toots. All right, MJ. Gonna take you to a place and propose to you." That's how he sounds.
He sounds like he's he's not just from New York. He's got something wrong with him. Maybe he's got some sort of learning difficulty.
I think it's that he's like such a big guy now. Like he's huge. It's like, "Hey, I'm huge.
Okay.
I'll beat you up, Sandman."
So
where did these guys come from?
Next up, how does that bomb that Peter tosses towards Harry not kill him? The Green Goblin bomb.
It's very inconsistent. I mean, all they had to do was just make the bomb be slightly further away from him, and it would have been much more realistic. I don't know. I mean, most ineffective bomb ever, I guess. I mean, maybe there's no explanation, Luke. It's just, I mean, clearly, Norman, what's his name? Norman Osborn. Clearly, he just didn't know how to design bombs. Like, he got bombs that instantly vaporize people into skeletons. He got that down.
Oh yeah.
He was definitely on like his skeleton creating bombs. See, that was easy, but his bombs that are as powerful as just a modern day frag grenade, he couldn't work that out. They were always pretty weak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's inconsistent when it comes to those kind of bombs. So next up, another nitpick on in the same category as the others, in terms of New York being small. Brock walks into the exact same church at the exact same time that Peter is there. And
Spider-Man logic.
Yes. Peter's trying to get rid of the Venom thing, and then in walks fucking Brock. I mean, why did Peter go to the church anyway?
I mean, it doesn't... I think it doesn't really make any... Like, he looks up at the church bell and he's like, "Ooh, it's a church bell." And the weird thing is, like, that would make sense if, he'd already worked out that the Venom doesn't like those kind of noises. But instead, he's just like, "Ooh, a church bell. I like bells. Let's go see that bell."
Okay. So the thing is with this one, you could have had Ed Brock come to Peter's house to, like, fight him, basically. Because obviously
he could have shown up, not like fight. He should have been like, "Hey, what do you think you're doing? Peter, you cost me my job, you dickhead." What do you say? You chump?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Michael. Your accents. I'm regretting reviewing Grease right now because like
Well,
every
I don't know,
accent
see.
from now on is just gonna be fucking Danny Zuko.
See, I feel like I've kind of gone, like, I'm trying to go more aggressive than Danny Zuko, but it's not. I mean, the problem is they are actually from New York. I mean, what does Topher Grace? Do you know? I mean, one thing everyone knows about Topher Grace, by the way, is that he did a fan edit of the original Star Wars trilogy. Did you know that?
I did
No,
not know
not the
that.
original. Sorry, the prequel. He edited the prequels into one coherent film.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for
He was
Topher
like,
Grace.
Hey, check out this.
No.
He wasn't
No.
like that. He was like, I mean, what? New York. Hey, check out this film, Peter. Hey, why'd you make me lose my job? I didn't like it, so there we go. That's. I mean, it's not what he sounds like, but it's different.
This is going to be long enough as it is.
Okay,
So
go.
just start. Also, how can he tell Peter's up there? Like, he says, Parker? Like that. When he's like
Yeah.
fucking so far away. How can he tell it's Peter
so
Parker?
dumb that he's like that. Like it. Ugh, I don't know. I guess it's so that he knows that Peter's Spider-Man.
Yep.
And the alternative would be Peter when the better version would be if when the Venom suit fell down, it had a label on it that said "Property of Peter Parker."
That's good. That's good. Next up, this one again is just totally bizarre. So, Mary Jane goes out of her house, and hails a taxi. And who's driving the taxi? Fucking Ed Brock. Now, number one, how would he know that she would need a taxi at that moment? And
So
two,
stupid.
why didn't he just kidnap her like normally? Like, was he just waiting there for like 30 minutes with a taxi outside her apartment? Like, just think about all the effort it would take to just set that up. He needs to get the taxi, you know, like,
Yeah, he needs
to find out where
he
she
had to get a job at what he did is before he even became Venom, he already was like, I'm gonna become a trained taxi driver. I just feel like it might come in handy.
Yeah.
So he already had that under his belt.
It's just so stupid. Like,
it's
oh my god.
beautiful, wonderful. What number are you on, Luke? By the way?
I've got one more to go.
Okay, I'm impressed that that you've managed to get through those with my
Yeah.
interruptions. Okay, what's your last one, Luke?
So again, this one is, it's quite weird. Like, it just shows how shit this movie is. The reporter at the end, when she's talking about the fight between Spider-Man and Venom and Sandman as well, she's talking about it like a sporting event. Like, she says something, oh, Spider-Man, this is a battle, maybe he can't win. Oh, Spider-Man's stepping up to the challenge. Oh, it's hard to believe what's happening. I don't think he can take it anymore. Like, she's commentating on like a boxing event or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah. And obviously there's kids watching and cheering there. That's the thing in these kind of movies, and it's in The Amazing Spider-Man as well. Like, a lot of crowds hang around like potentially lethal fights between villains and Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like, what was it in The Amazing Spider-Man? It was this kid who runs
Yeah,
out.
the kid runs out in front of the Rhino, and he's like,
yeah.
and he's like dressed like Spider-Man, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you, bitch."
Yeah, I think he says something like
then
that.
he gets crushed, if I remember correctly. He gets crushed by the Rhino, and everyone goes, "Well, I guess Peter's gone." And then they get confused about how they knew that Spider-Man was called Peter.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
Nailed it.
Yeah, the reporter at the end, I was just awful.
Yeah, classic.
Script, screenplay, whatever. Awful dialogue.
Yes.
So we're done, I think, with
Yeah.
our nitpicks, and we are going to move on to the plot now.
Yes.
The plot. So do you want to kick things off, Michael?
Yeah, okay, so first of all, I want to start with the thing, because Spider-Man films have kind of two things happening at once most of the time. There's the drama, the family drama, or like the family friend drama, and then there's the plot, and you can kind of pretty much tear those two things apart and look at them in isolation. So I think it's fair to say that the villain plot, the action plot, is a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to put that to the side for a minute, Luke.
Yes.
I'm going to tear it away like the Venom suit, and I'm going to put it in a big reverberating metal chamber.
Good idea.
Instead, I just want to talk about, so you get like some stuff in this, and I was saying, I kind of like some of how Peter's made complicated here, so I'm just going to kind of go through some things. Like, the whole thing with this basically is Peter wants to propose to Mary Jane. That's the thrust of the personal plot, some might say. And I did like right away the scene he had with Aunt May, where she was kind of like, I said no because, you know, you've got to be prepared to put someone first, if you're gonna marry them. And then I like the bit where Peter was like, hey, I didn't propose because, you know, you said I've got to be prepared to put someone first, so here's the ring back. And then Aunt May's like, no, you keep the ring, because eventually you'll reach the time. I thought that was a nice little...
Yeah,
you know,
that was good.
That was a nice little character arc going on. And then, okay, so we need to talk, I think, pretty much entirely now about the Mary Jane relationship. So I think the Peter Parker Mary Jane stuff is quite maligned, because it's kind of just annoying, the amount of like breaking up and getting back together and then crying that they do. I did think the thing that they did here I thought was interesting was how kind of obnoxiously positive Peter Parker is. Like, he doesn't get it. Like, Mary Jane's like, no, I don't, like, I'm nervous, and Peter Parker's like, everything will be fine. I'm Peter, I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Which I thought was like, it was like a good kind of character thing, because it was like, it wasn't just like he was like, hey, I'm gonna go kiss Gwen Stacy. It was just like, you know, hey, let's be positive. And she's like, I don't want to be positive. Which, like I say, I mean, it's like kind of a clever antagonizing element, because it's not like I say, he's literally just being a dick at that point. He's just like, hey, you know, everything will be fine. I'm Spider-Man. I embody positivity, and therefore I'm going to kind of be a bit naive when it comes to your very sincere problems. And Mary Jane's like, well, I'm impressed that you sort of just literally stated it like that in such an obvious way, but I just wish you'd stop doing it. And he's like, nah. So I like that. I also liked how much the film just shat on Mary Jane. And
Wow.
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of La La Land. Like, I kept wanting there to be a scene where Mary Jane would be like, what if I'm not good enough? You know, I'm just going to move back to Nevada, and I'm going to not do my one-woman show. And then Peter Parker would show up and honk the horn really loudly, and he'd be like, you've got to go do that one-woman show, because I like jazz. Now do on this. Anyway, you were about to interrupt me, so, I mean, not interrupt me, but what do you want to say?
No, I wasn't actually going to interrupt you, Michael.
Really?
Continue.
Okay. So, I mean, it's like, I like it because it makes Mary Jane not terrible. Like, you actually feel sorry for Mary Jane. In the rest of the films, like, Mary Jane is just bleh. Like, I mean, she literally just does things for seemingly no reason, and there's nothing about her to really get interested in. In this, it's kind of like you do feel sorry for her, which I like. Then, obviously, then Peter Parker becomes a dick, and I think that's kind of not that good, because, like I said, I mean, I like the idea of him being so obnoxiously positive that it kind of irritates her, but then it's like, okay, so now he's literally being a dick. It feels like it should be a second act thing. Like,
Yeah.
or like, sorry, not like the second act thing, but like a second film thing, like he's being a dick. Like, it's kind of, I mean, the problem is it kind of makes the whole he wants to propose to her thing a bit farcical. Because, like, I kind of, like I just said when I opened this whole thing up, I liked the fact that there was this thing going on with the proposing thing, where I was like, oh, proposing is a big decision, you've got to be willing to be, you know, really nice, to give up everything for this one person, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that element's good, but then when you actually look at the way Peter behaves, it's kind of just ridiculous that he was even on the verge of proposing to her in the first place. Like, it would have made sense if it was like, you know, like, it was just like he did a minor thing, and I was like, okay, I'm not completely ready to, you know, propose, we need to work some stuff out, but he's like, yeah, I really want to propose to her, even though, you know, I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure in the last film we broke up like 3 times. But now I'm going to propose with her, so in this film we can divorce 3 times or something. And it's just like, yeah, it's just a bit silly. Like, I don't know, I don't think they should have had the whole... I mean, basically what they should have done is they should have shifted the Mary Jane being shat on thing forward. Then they should have had this one actually be, you know, maybe Peter's not quite as much of a dickhead. And then I did like Harry and MJ at first. I like the bit where she's like, hey, Peter's being kind of a knob, can I hang out with you? He's like, yeah, and then not like being cute. I thought that worked, apart from the omelette flipping. It was good, because it was like, it felt like characters being characters, and that's a nice thing. I mean, I like when characters are characters.
Yeah, so...
It's like not a Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, all the drama with MJ, and all the fucking proposing thing, and him not getting how insensitive he is, and Mary Jane not doing well.
I can tell from your tone that you really enjoyed it.
It was just like, I've fucking seen all this before in number 2. in Spider-Man 2.
It's annoying.
It's like, okay, we're going over this whole thing again where they break up and then they get back together, and then at the end, Peter saves MJ. She's the damsel in distress again, and it's like, okay, we've seen this movie before. Literally, we've seen it before. It was the last one. Can we move on to something else? Like, Spider-Man 2 was already a very good movie. Can we just, have something different with all the drama with Peter and MJ? I was just bored with it. I didn't watch Spider-Man 2 before watching this, but I already had seen it more recently than this movie, so I knew what happened, and I was just like, I just don't really care, about Mary Jane losing her job. Like, I don't really care about Peter and her breaking up, because they've already done it, twice before or whatever. And so it was just really all Peter's personal problems with Harry as well, Harry Osborn, is just like, I'm just done with this. They're just recycling this plotline because I guess Sam Raimi was like, we need to have this in it again, otherwise this movie will lack any I don't know, heart. Yes, lack heart. It'll just be what makes Spider-Man so good. It's because it's his personal life and the actual villains he's taking down. But it's in this movie, it's so separated and just so but it's so different. The villain side and then his personal side. It's like you're watching kind of two movies at the same time. And just the personal...
Good Venom analogy, Michael.
Michael?
When I came up with that Venom analogy, remember? About tearing the action away from the...
Yes, so you and me see eye to eye on that. Yeah.
Although I don't know, I wouldn't... I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously there is the element of Harry being a tertiary villain. I was going to say secondary, not even a tertiary villain.
Yes.
And obviously that's kind of it. But I guess it needs to be pointed out that the Harry and Peter villain thing has an element of bullshit to it. In that, the way it's resolved and the fact that it begins, it kind of makes sense how it begins. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't Peter just explain it immediately? But I can kind of see how Peter wouldn't immediately think to do that. You don't just go, hey, this is exactly what happened with. No, I kind of get it. The problem is at the end where it's just hey, I cleaned your father's wounds. He killed himself, and now you can be Peter's friend. And he's like, that's convenient. Thank you for letting me know, buddy.
Okay, I was going to talk about that later in the character section.
Okay, well, we can anyway. And then also the other thing that's complete bullshit is Harry forcing Mary Jane to break up with Peter. It's just I'd say that's probably the worst thing that happens in terms of that relationship, because it's okay, at least it would have made more sense. The bit when she kind of didn't like him, or she kind of fell out of favor with him because he was he fell out of favor with her because he was being a bit of a dick. And they kind of went on a break and she did the whole thing with Harry. I was fine with that because it wasn't I'm going to break up with you. It was, kind of felt more organic. And then literally they can't help themselves. Well, now she needs to actually break up with him so he can go. So let's have Harry force her. The other stupid thing about it, and this is possibly the most stupid thing. I've already said, I feel like I've said that several times now, but Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe says, we've got to attack the heart. The heart. And the thing is, you could imagine a better version of this film where Harry Osborn decides to kind of subtly sabotage Peter and Mary Jane's relationship and kind of, make her move in. He seduces Mary Jane, basically.
Yeah. And that could be the personal drama. That would be different
exactly.
to the second one.
So it's not... Yeah. He, literally, because, for example, what happened up until that point is that Mary Jane was already kind of, in the mood for some Harry Osborn, and already not in the mood for some Petey Parky. And then it's hey, you've got to make her break up with Peter. And he's okay, I'll just literally threaten Peter's life and say, you've got to break up with him or else I'll kill him. It's I don't know, it would just be so much more interesting if it was he actually made an active effort to sabotage their relationship while... then it would be a more interesting villain dynamic. Really disappointing that it was just hey, make her break up with him via this stupid threat.
Yes. So, okay. That's the whole personal problems storyline and just shitting on it, basically.
Yeah, and I was thinking because... actually, I do want to say something that's kind of related to the personal. It's not really all I want to say is the Daily Bugle. I keep wanting to say Bugle instead of Bugle, and I know it's a very minor difference, but it bothers me even though I keep making a mistake. The Daily Bugle is just fantastic. It's just, like, I mean, I will never tire of J. Jonah Jameson. I love it. It makes me so happy. And it's really hard to not just be, like, loving it every minute where they're like, and there's a bit where it's where he's doing the medication.
Yeah.
It's like, your wife told me to get the medication. And it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like it's like perfect.
It
and
is.
the only thing that makes me like sad about like even so obviously the new Spider-Man film was good. With I forgot what it's even called, Spider-Man Homecoming. That's it. It was good. But I'm always kind of just sad about these Spider-Man reboots because I just think they're never gonna get the Daily Bugle like that good. Oh, it was so great. So yeah, and that's kind of like I like that. I also this kind of comes into villains actually, so I won't mention that. But I was going to say, so yeah, the Daily Bugle, really good. And also, seeing as we're now going to talk about kind of the action plot thing, initially we're going to do plot and then villains. I think it might make sense to kind of do the action plot and the villains at the same time, because it's kind of like the action plot is directly attached to the villains. There we go. You okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So, there's 3 villains in this film. The perfect number of villains to make a superhero film. And I guess, should we start with Sandman?
Yeah,
I want to mention something about Sandman. Okay, so I want to talk about Sandman a bit. So I mentioned there was some behind-the-scenes drama that I think is relevant when thinking about this film, so I'll tell you it now.
Okay.
Initially, Sam Raimi wanted to make 4 films. Well, actually, no, it wasn't clear how many films he wanted to make. I'm kind of lying. But his initial plan was to make the 3rd film about Sandman and possibly Harry Osborn's Green Goblin. And not Venom. But then the studio, Sony, who always make good decisions, was like, no, you've got to force in this Venom.
Yeah, I read about that, yeah.
So you've got to make Venom in there. And basically, there's an argument that Sam Raimi sabotaged the Venom bits especially, and didn't really care about the Venom bits because, you know, he didn't want to do the Venom bits. But he did want to do the Sandman bits. And I thought there were some things. There were obviously some criticisms that could be made about the Sandman stuff, which I guess we'll probably go into. But there were also a lot of good things about the Sandman thing. And you could definitely kind of, I mean, watching just the Sandman stuff in isolation, I think you could imagine a film that was maybe as good as the first one, possibly not as good as the second one. But the thing with the Sandman, obviously, is that he has escaped from prison. This is the good stuff. He's escaped from prison. He is getting money to help his daughter. And his daughter has this illness thing, and then he falls into a particle experiment thing, science, and becomes made out of sand, obviously, because how wouldn't that? And it has a literal shot of a grain of sand hitting his DNA and turning his DNA into sand, which I mean, to be honest, if you're going to have a guy turn into sand, then you don't really need to worry about making the science look believable.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say on Sandman, he's such a ridiculous villain. Like, just think about it, like Sandman. Like, what an awful name for it. Like, who came up? Well, obviously, it's probably Stan Lee, but it's an awful idea.
Yeah,
fucking Sandman.
Well, you know, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it basically his skill is kind of that he's just like is somewhat invulnerable. Like, I mean, how do you kill a guy made out of sand?
Yeah, good point.
Tell you, you know who would be a really good universe crossover is Sandman versus Darth Vader.
Ooh.
Because he hates sand. It's rough and it's coarse. And it gets everywhere.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what Peter should have said when he's just emptying out his boots full of sand. But one more thing on Sandman, by the way.
I was going to say a few more things that were basically all criticisms, but you can so you can say yours then.
Okay, so my criticism of Sandman, basically, well, I've got 2, but I'll just say the first one. He doesn't seem bothered at all that he's been turned into sand. Like, he just looks up at his fucking sandy hands and he's like, oh shit, I'm part sand now. Like, surely that would freak you out. You'd be going crazy, like, what the hell's happened to me? And he masters the whole sand thing, like, drifting through the buildings pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, instantly. So yeah, he just, like, he takes it on, he takes being turned into this sand monster on the chin.
Yes.
Just Sandman.
But yeah, I mean, it's just one thing, like a positive. the scene of him kind of coming out from the sand is pretty good. I mean, it doesn't hold up necessarily, but in theory, it's well done. I mean, it's well done. It just doesn't hold up technology. You know what I'm saying, Luke?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Anyway, so yeah, some criticisms of it. I think my main criticism is it's not like, okay, so the Dr. Octopus storyline is he wants money to make this fusion generator, you know?
Yeah.
So he robs a bank to get money for his fusion generator. In this one, it's kind of like there's not like a very coherent idea of like what his plan is in terms of getting money for his daughter. He's just like hires some cops, and then literally there's happens to be like a bank van nearby, and he's like, oh, it's a bank van. I guess I'll rob that bank van.
Yeah, he gets lucky with that as well.
Yeah, and it's just like it's almost like if it's not like he's actively looking for a bank to rob or anything like that. He just happens to see a big van that says, I have money in me, and he's like, oh, look at that. To be honest, I mean, if you want to avoid having your van, you know, be attacked, don't identify it as a bank van, which is, I assume, what it was literally called.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like annoying because, I mean, the thing is, I would say this, a lot of the criticisms of Sandman kind of fall down to he doesn't get enough time. And of course, the reason he doesn't get enough time is because other characters are given a lot more time. So, because obviously the thing is, the Green Goblin is a good villain because he has those moments of like, you know, psychosis where I'm talking about obviously Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. He has these moments of like psychosis where he's like freaking out. He has these moments of of oh no, what have I done? Or this is what I'm going to do, and all this stuff. Like he has these moments. Sandman doesn't really have them because like he doesn't have any time to do them. There's no room for him. The other thing is, of course, I feel like oh wait, it wasn't this guy who killed Uncle Ben, it was Sandman who killed Uncle Ben. A bit kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, a bit shit, yeah.
Yeah, a bit like stupid.
It ruins the first movie, doesn't it? Well, a large part
much
of the first movie. Like the whole Spider-Man origin story is, the guy that Spider-Man
let go
killed his uncle, but actually, oh no, it's not the guy that Spider-Man let go. It was another guy. So,
I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to do.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have done that.
Can Peter forgive the person who killed his uncle? That's the point of it. I think they shouldn't have done it that way because it just doesn't work. I mean, you know, what they should have done like more logically would be like made the films 10 times slow, have like 10 more films, and have Peter date Gwen Stacy, and then have the Green Goblin kill Gwen Stacy, and then can Peter Parker forgive the Green Goblin. There we go, that's their plan. That's what they should have done. This film should have been Peter Parker suddenly starts dating Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn kills Gwen Stacy, and then in Spider-Man 6, which would just be great, it's like, hey, I'm Harry Osborn, can you forgive me for killing Gwen Stacy? Great.
There's a lot of shoulda, woulda.
Yes, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
The thing is, though, with the forgiveness thing, like, Peter, okay, he can forgive him for killing his uncle, even though I don't really think he should, but whatever. Peter just lets Sandman just get away at the end. Even though he's still a villain and an escaped convict, and he's still robbed banks and shit like that. And he's just like, okay, you can go. I'm not going to bother chasing after you because I forgive you.
You know, I didn't even think of that. That's a good point, yeah. It would make more sense if he was like, you know, I forgive you, but I'm still going to, you know, arrest you.
The thing is, I was watching this as a kid, Michael, and I'm going to bring this moment up another time in this review. But I was watching all my feelings when I was a kid. But when watching this, when I was probably like 11 or 12 or whatever, I was like, wait, you're just letting him go? What the fuck? This is stupid. Like, he's still the villain. What are you doing? Just letting him... That was my initial feelings, and I remember thinking that. And, yeah, I still hold that opinion to this day. On that scene. It's
also very weird. I mean, this is like, doesn't really affect the quality of the film, but it's very strange because Sony has been pushing for a Sinister Six film. They were pushing for a Sinister Six film in the Sam Raimi era, and then, of course, when they did the whole, you've got to get Green Goblin and Electro and the Rhino, and then we've got a Dr. Octopus suit in the background. That was because they were pushing for a Sinister Six film in the Andrew Garfield films.
Yes.
And they're probably pushing for a Sinister Six film in the Venom universe. I don't know. Anyway, the point is they're always pushing for a Sinister Six film. The weird thing about that is Sandman is a member of the Sinister Six, but the way they set it up at the end of this film, just hypothetically, in a hypothetical future Spider-Man, how could Sandman ever become a member of the Sinister Six when literally the whole point is I'm sorry I killed your uncle. Will you forgive me? I mean, I don't know. So there we go. Not only do I have a problem with this film, I have a problem with the hypothetical future Sinister Six film that this would have set up, where Sandman comes back and he's a villain.
Good point.
There we go. So screw Sony. Apart from that, I think we spoke enough about Sandman.
Yes.
So
The Green Goblin.
Unfortunately, it's not enough time. Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, Green Goblin. Obviously, there's one good thing about Harry Osborn, which is that he's now had 2 films worth of build-up, which is good. Having said that, the problem is like the second film of build-up kind of felt like a lot of bullshit. I mean, not like in itself, but just like, I don't know, like, just, he's like, Spider-Man killed my dad. It's kind of like a contrived reason to hate Spider-Man, when it's like, hey, did you ever think maybe your dad was a dickhead? That's what I'd assume. Someone killed my dad. No, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say he's good. Apart from, I felt like I've kind of already been through the bad things and possibly the good things. So the good thing is, number one, he's got setup, which is more than can be said for the Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Harry Osborn just shows up in the second film.
Oh god, what an awful movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, I mean, I think you'd probably agree with this. I'd say this film's better than the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh yes, definitely.
So yeah. Anyway, so he's got build up. He is actually noticeably Peter Parker's friend. It kind of sucks that they dropped him being Peter Parker's friend thing a bit in the second film. Which
what did he do in the second film again?
The second film, mostly what it was he was kind of like Dr. Octopus, I need you. He had an idea at the end of the first film that Spider-Man had killed his father. At the end, in the second film, he was like, bring me Spider-Man and I'll give you the money or whatever, or the special ingredient to do your fusion reaction thing.
Yeah.
So Dr. Octopus knocks out Spider-Man, takes him to Harry. Harry takes off Peter's mask and he's like, oh wait, it's Peter. Peter's the one who killed Spider-Man. And
Peter's the one who killed his dad.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Peter's the one. Yeah, Peter's the one who killed my dad. And then that's pretty much how the film ends. I think there are a few scenes. I think he dates. I actually think, okay, you're gonna hate this because it's gonna remind you just as I think he dates Mary Jane in the second film.
Yeah, he does.
For a bit too.
He does.
Yes. So it's just I mean, I don't know, like. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like. I mean, I like the idea of him ultimately being a hero. That's good. But then the problem is the reason why he decides to become a hero is like just hey, here's a reveal. And it's kind of just like he doesn't really change. Peter Parker isn't an active protagonist in changing Harry's mind. Like, Harry's completely dead set against helping Peter, even to help Mary Jane. And then it's like some random dudes who's I don't think's even said like that many lines. He's actually just like he's no Alfred. He's like, hey, your dad killed himself. And he's like, oh, in that case I'll be a hero. And it's like, I don't know, just a bit more effort.
Yeah.
Just have it so it's like, he actually has a conversation with Peter where he gets convinced or, decides that he is going to be a hero because, I don't know, just do something more logical.
Yeah, the way, Harry is treated in this movie is kind of like, oh, we want him to die at the end, and we want him to be mad at the beginning, and just, oh, we'll have him get amnesia, so he just forgets everything.
Yeah.
And
he literally just bangs his head in, the most comical scene.
Like, that, I don't care if he's got some special thing inside his body from the Green Goblin. Like, that should kill him. Like, yes. If you hit your head that hard, I don't care, what you've done to your body, what you've injected, you should be dead. Right there. There is no way you're coming back from that massive brain trauma. Should be it. And, the fact that he can even speak again normally and just move like it. And it's like nothing
I think it would be more realistic. It would have been more realistic if after the trauma he spoke like this. Like, hey, Spider-Man, how's it going?
Well, the thing is, the initial, the way he attacks Peter as the Green Goblin, it just comes out of nowhere. I thought it was like a dream sequence, or it was going to be a dream sequence at first, because it was just so weird, and it's like,
he's just riding along on his bike.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Harry attacks him, and then I thought...
And then he says, you knew this was coming, Pete.
Yeah. And I thought we were going to get maybe Harry, waking up from a dream and being like, panting. I was like, oh shit, am I going to do that to Peter? Is that my
destiny?
Is that my destiny?
And
is that why?
Then the Green Goblin would have gone, yes, it's your destiny.
Yeah, but
the heart.
Nope, we just jump straight into it. Then he gets amnesia. Then he comes back at the end when they need him. It's just like, right, okay, just you're clearly not paying attention. There's no sort of idea with with this character. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One more point about Sandman. I feel like we didn't mention this because we were too distracted by all the other nonsense, but the fact that he shoots Uncle Ben by accident is also really dumb.
Oh yeah, that is dumb. That's just
Yeah, I
the
just wanted to say that
50th
because I just
dumb
realised
thing we've mentioned.
it's
So
literally like, it's like, my gun's in my hand. My gun was in my hand. So, I mean, he'd make a good cop.
I was scared for my life when somebody tapped me on the shoulder.
Yeah,
I had
so
no
my
choice.
gun was in my hand, so... anyway, so now we get to
Venom.
Venom.
Okay. Okay. So this is the worst part of the movie, Michael. Everything to do with Venom is just absolutely shit.
I have one positive.
Okay, go on. List your positive, because I don't think I have one. Oh,
he
looks kind of cool, but that's it.
I like how much of... There's one scene in the Daily Bugle, and maybe it's just because I love the Daily Bugle so much, I can't say that isn't the case, but I like how much of an obnoxious arsehole Eddie Brock is. He's just like, hey, I got these pictures, they're great, give me a staff job. And Peter's like, oh, I never had a staff job. I thought that kind of made him like a good character, and then, but yeah, okay, that's my one positive.
Okay, so, Venom. Okay, well, let's start off with the first time you see Venom. I don't know, what would you call the actual meteorite and the actual thing? Are we going to just call
It's called we'll call it a symbiote. That's what we'll call it.
The symbiote. So the symbiote lands right next to them, Peter and Mary Jane. An unbelievable
Spider-Man
coincidence.
logic.
Spider-Man logic. It doesn't just land in New York, but in the very same park while they're there on a night out together, looking at the stars. It's not explained how it landed there. There's no explanation. There's no establishing shot beforehand. Oh, look at this meteorite going through space, heading towards Earth. It just lands right next to them, and it's like, oh, what's this? Oh, who cares? It's this Venom thing. Even when I was watching it as a kid, I was like, what is this? This is just ridiculous.
It's really weird. It's kind of hard. It makes the plot really confusing, in a way, because it's almost like, okay,
you're trying to work out what it is.
Yeah, you're like, what just happened right now?
What just
and
happened?
It's like, and the fact that you don't really find out until it's just this weird goo thing. There's a scene where it's in his room.
Yeah.
And just hey, I'm a piece of goo. The fact that it follows him is also not only does it land near him, it also decides to follow him and hang out in his room.
Yeah. So
great.
I don't know what it's doing in Peter's apartment. So obviously it attaches itself eventually to Peter because of his negative thoughts. Well, that's why I assume it does it. But why did he jump on Peter's motorbike in the first place? Why did he try and hitch a ride? Because obviously Peter and Mary Jane, they were very happy, no negative thoughts, and he jumps on the motorbike. But then obviously he just hangs around in their apartment, just waiting until Peter just has a bad day, and then he just latches onto him. And then that's actually an hour into the movie, so we'll talk about this after we finish discussing Venom. But you go literally, I looked at the time of the movie. It's obviously Venom symbiote latches onto the motorcycle early in the movie, probably 10-15 minutes in. And then it's about at the hour mark, the hour 5-minute mark, where you actually see it again properly. And when it comes and, latches onto Peter and creates a Spider-Man suit too, which is just kind of crazy. Maybe you can create Spider-Man suits. I don't know. But yeah, it does that. And so, yeah, there you go. That's this Venom thing. It's just awful, basically. And it also makes Peter Parker look like an emo for some reason.
Yes, I mean, are we going to talk about emo Peter now?
Not yet.
Okay, I was just going to say, because it does naturally different Venom. I mean, yeah, so I guess bad things about Venom, the fact that his face gets peeled back when to show us Eddie Brock's face. I don't want to see that. I want to see Venom's face, because Venom is scary. And we should talk about, there's kind of, with Venom, it's two villains at once almost, because it's Eddie Brock, the villain, and Peter Parker Venom's effect on Peter Parker as the villain. And Eddie Brock is okay in some ways. I like the fact that he does kind of best Peter in some social context. I don't like the fact that he is just a bitch when he's just hey, you photoshopped your photo, you nonce, and then he's like, oh god. So that's bullshit. And yeah, I mean, I guess the fact that like his motivation is actually just that Peter like stole his job, and also his girlfriend broke up with him for no reason.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, so Gwen Stacy just breaks up with him and goes with Peter. Like, apparently, what girls really want is a freelance photographer.
Well, I mean, that's
what they want out of a man.
It's true. So yeah, I mean, it just like a lot of. I think it would have been better if Eddie Brock was like a character. They should have planned ahead. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm a big believer in planning ahead when it comes to things. If they've just been like, hey, let's at least think 2 films ahead on this one. Let's have him show up in the second film. Then, they could have had more time. They could have had more going on, apart from just Peter and, Mary Jane falling out and stuff. They could have been building up Eddie Brock's character.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, he kind of just shows up and you're like, who is this bozo? And why do I care that he just became some big black version of Spider-Man?
Big black version of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also evil Spider-Man doesn't even... I mean, it's not even that evil. Like, it would have been good if it was actual...
It's not even that bad. I remember in the marketing campaign, you had these pictures of a black Spider-Man looking back at the normal Spider-Man. I can't remember which was which in the mirror. And it's like, oh, this time Spider-Man, he's going to be darker. He doesn't actually do anything that bad, does he?
It's stupid because it's it's obviously we all know the classic scene where Superman fights an evil version of himself in, I think, Superman 2.
Yes. And Batman's been dark as well, but you can't really do that with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, if it's a literal evil Spider-Man, then there's no one there to fight him, which doesn't really work. So it kind of makes sense to have Venom be the counter Spider-Man. That's how they should have done it. They should have had it so Venom becomes Eddie Brock, because Eddie Brock's kind of already the counter Peter Parker, because he's a freelance journalist too, things like that.
Yes.
So they should have kept with that, and then it should have been the Thing takes over. I don't think it needed to take over Peter Parker at all. There was no real gain from it taking over Peter Parker, and it just added a whole other complex element to the Thing. So then it should have just taken over Eddie Brock. Maybe just by accident, not because he prayed to God to kill Peter Parker and then became Venom, and I guess assumed that God was now giving him the ability to kill Peter Parker. Who knows? But anyway, if it would have just become, you've given Eddie Brock these powers, and then Eddie Brock, being a kind of obnoxious asshole, wants to be the best at everything, whatever else, starts, being Spider-Man, but then, maybe he kind of starts doing some morally questionable things because of the influence of the suit on him. And then eventually it's Dark Spider-Man or Evil Spider-Man versus Good Spider-Man. And that would have been fine. I'd be like, yeah, great. But instead it's kind of Spider-Man attacks Peter and kind of makes him change his hairstyle. and that's it. And then he goes, I can't handle having my hairstyle be bad anymore. So then he throws it away. And then suddenly this big thing with teeth that occasionally peels back its teeth and reveals some Topher Grace guy says, I'm gonna steal your girlfriend and you're gonna have to rescue her. And Peter Parker's like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's gonna go well. That's gonna definitely. I mean, that's a great idea for you because no one's ever come up with that before.
Very original.
I'm not used to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about the 3 villains: Sandman, Green Goblin, and Venom. But we need to point out, Michael, that there's 3 fucking villains in this movie. And obviously Harry becomes good at the end, but there's just so much going on with the villains. Yeah. You got Venom, and then Green Goblin, then Sandman, then the Green Goblin again, then Venom again, then Sandman. So many things involving all the characters and some of them don't even make sense, and you're just constantly wait, why did they do that? Or what just happened? Where are they going now? What happened to this character? It's switching back and forth constantly. There's no Venom, like I said before, until literally an hour has passed, and we get 15 minutes of him. And there's literally 50 minutes of no Harry Osborn. Then all of a sudden he's the Green Goblin again. And then again, between the end scene and I can't when Peter Parker is goes into the sewer and kind of kills Sandman, doesn't actually kill him obviously. There's a 40-minute gap between when you see Sandman then and at the end. So there's again no Sandman for 40 minutes. There's no coherent thing going on. It's just basically a story about Spider-Man dealing with personal trouble with Mary Jane, and then villains come and go.
Villains showing up.
Yeah,
the thing is,
when it suits the plot.
Everyone says Amazing Spider-Man 2 had 3 villains. Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't even really have 3 villains because the Rhino, Paul Giamatti, is literally just a teaser at the end. So it's kind of like, I mean, even like having two villains is kind of difficult. Like, you can get away with it. I mean, there's Catwoman and the Penguin in Spider-Man Returns. There's actually no, the other Spider-Man. I mean, I guess you could say Harry Osborn was kind of a villain in Spider-Man 2, but he wasn't even much of a villain. So yeah, the Spider-Man films up until this point had just had one villain apiece, and it worked like pretty damn fine.
You can have two villains, like in Dark Knight.
There's the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, and obviously the second villain, what's he called? Two-Face becomes a villain
Two-Face.
after what has transpired in the movie, and you can have that happen with, say, Venom. So you could have, if you really wanted to, this is just an option, obviously, like Harry Osborn is seeking his revenge on Peter Parker, and then Venom comes in later on at like the hour mark, and then at the end it's like Harry Osborn turns and likes Peter, and they got to kill Venom. Now that right there, obviously no Sandman, that right there would kind of be similar to what happened in this movie, kind of, but it would still be just more coherent, and it would just make a lot more sense. The fact that it's just awful. It's like they've not. Obviously, you said before about Sam Raimi being told you have to put Venom in. He wanted to do a movie about Sandman, but the issue is obviously from the second movie that Harry Osborn does not like Peter Parker, so you've got to do something with that. And then you've got to add in Sandman and his whole backstory and deal, and then you've got to add in Venom, and Venom is Eddie Brock. And okay, so how do we get Eddie Brock involved? Well, he has a relationship.
He's dating your daughter,
Gwen Stacy, who Peter also knows, and it's just so complicated. And yeah, they didn't really think this through, did they? Yeah, it's just Spider-Man 2 and 1, just so much simpler and better.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 and 1 are just like so. Anyway, are we going to talk about Emo Peter now?
Yes, now it is time to talk about Emo Peter.
So, I do want to say there's like two classic Emo Peter scenes. There's the walking down the street, going, yeah, I'm cool. Do with all the girls looking at him like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then there's the Jazz Club scene. Now, I want to say, okay, the walking down the street thinking is cool. I can handle that because I'm like, okay, Peter Parker is a nerd who thinks he's cool, but just because he thinks he's cool doesn't mean he's any more cool.
I don't think I could handle it. It was so out of place. It was so weird.
I could handle it as like stupid, but like still not completely like. It was it did make sense to me. Like, I don't want to compliment it too much, but I'm gonna say like I was like, okay, so it's turning him into like a weird person, and that is affecting it, like making him just ridiculously weird. I was like, I don't think the film had gone off the rails at that point. I mean, it had gone off the rails, but I don't think that made it go off the rails exactly. Like, I think it was not on some very good rails, but it hadn't gone off them yet.
Okay, the way I look at it is the movie was bad, and this just continued on the downward trend of it being bad. But what happened next in the Jazz Club was
Jazz Club.
What's that word? EX when it's exponential.
Exponentially.
It made it exponentially worse. That Jazz Club scene.
That scene, I must admit. I mean, like, this is kind of the one positive thing I'll say about it is when it happened, I laughed so hard, even though I knew it was coming. The minute she starts singing, and you just hear like the piano playing, and it cuts to Peter playing the piano.
Who thought this was a good idea?
It's so just ridiculous. Like I said, it's the point where it's not even like a scene in the film anymore. Because like, yeah, him walking down the street, I mean, it's ridiculous, but you know, it's like a scene in the film where Peter's just being like, he thinks he's cool. This scene, like, literally, it's like something from a different film. It's just like he's like, now dig on this, starts doing his dance, he double time slides across on a stool, and then Mary Jane watches this really weird display, and then he's like, yeah, you like that? And then it's just, I mean, there's not really words to describe it. I'm just saying what happens.
I'll try. It's gobsmacking, crazy, bizarre, stupid, out of place. And as you're watching it, I mean, you were laughing. I was just shaking my head like, Jesus Christ, it is as bad as I remember. So
it's so funny.
It's obviously, I remember this when I watched it as a kid, and a lot of other people do when they reference Spider-Man 3 because it's the infamous scene in this movie. But I'm going to reference myself as a kid again, but while I was a kid watching this, I just was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I genuinely, I didn't know what I was watching. And still to this day, watching it literally this week, I just did not know it's unbelievable. It's like you've been transported to like a different planet where movies just don't make sense anymore. It is just crazy, and I don't know who the hell thought this was a good idea, and then who the hell approved it. Like, it's like Sam Raimi was deliberately sabotaging the movie. And you've said before he sabotaged the Venom bits. I don't know if this counts as a Venom bit, because apparently
I think it might count as a Venom
fucking
bit.
Venom makes him want to dance in a jazz club and all that, and say dig on this. But it's so stupid that it must have been done intentionally. Like, there's I can't imagine
nobody was watching this and thinking, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, unless my lizard theory is true.
God.
Well, Hollywood is run by lizards, and they were like, is this good? I don't know. I'm a lizard. Like that.
It's like they spliced in another movie from Tobey Maguire's career and just put it into this Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, well, I do hope. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I hope the Tom Hardy Venom. I mean, I would watch the film just to see Tom Hardy. Now dig on this.
Now, you know what? I would actually respect it if before Tom Hardy kills somebody, he does say, "Now dig on this." Like, I'd actually go, yes. Like, I would enjoy that callback. It's like in the new Spider-Man game when you're walking down the street as Spider-Man, you can do the old like what Peter did when he was walking down the street in Spider-Man 3, like point at somebody with both hands, like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, that's how that's in the new Spider-Man game. So yeah, I definitely endorse Tom Hardy saying, "Now dig this."
I would like it if in this film there was it cut to Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone sat at the front of the jazz club going, "How can you not like jazz?" I mean, look at this emo. He's dancing around. It's like an art. It's like a game. It's like a war.
That would be actually in La La Land. Again, I'd enjoy references to this. If Ryan Gosling said, "What's the most memorable scene from Spider-Man 3?" When he's in the jazz club. Exactly.
That makes it good. Yeah, I mean, it's just, wow. I mean, it's like, I mean, you can't even talk about it as like, it almost defies review because it's just so ridiculous. Just like, I mean, what's even happening? I would say, like, I don't know, like, I mean, it's just, anyway, crazy. So now we talk about the action, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that what we talk about?
The action.
Okay. So
does that count as the action?
Yeah, I mean, it was action, in that, I guess, he was being pretty active, probably worked off he was probably on a calorie deficit that day.
Can't argue with that.
Alright, I'm just going to talk randomly about the action, in every single way.
Okay,
so,
go for it.
A few things. First of all, at first, I was like, wow, when the Green Goblin attacked him, I was like, wow, this looks fake as all outdoors.
It looks so schlocky.
Yeah, but then, like, I think I just got used to it. Like, I don't, like, in my head I was like, has it got better? And I'm pretty sure it didn't get better. I think I just got used to it.
Yes.
There was part of me that does like how, like, cartoony it is, like how, like, the action doesn't take itself too seriously. I do like that. Like, I like the fact it's not just like, there's coming. Have you heard? A storm. It's just like, you know this was coming, Pete. It's you who's out, Harry. Out of your mind. Like, you know, I mean, you've got to love the gimmicky action.
No, but that's
also,
the thing. I was just going to say, what are the best superhero movies? The ones that take themselves seriously.
Yeah, but, you know, I feel like that was just a fluke. I feel like it's just a fluke that every single superhero... It's kind of, I don't know, but you need, like if every film took itself seriously... I mean, no, because I think, counterpoint, I think the Amazing Spider-Man films try and take themselves seriously.
No, I'm not saying... No. Okay.
Oh, so you're just saying the best films take themselves seriously, but not all good films take themselves... Yeah, got you. Anyway, genuine compliment. Not just me complimenting it for being schlocky or anything like that. I did like that one of his concerns was holding onto the ring, because, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cute. I like how it was like, you know, it added an extra dimension to the fight. It wasn't just like,
yeah, whatever. No, it was good, yeah.
Also, I liked when Spider-Man tried to punch Sandman and then his like hand went through him, and he was like, huh. And he was like confused. I like that moment because it was like, oh wait, he's up against a new villain. It's kind of surprising. I don't know, just that idea of him like being like, oh, that's different. Kind of entertained me.
That's
Also,
kind of the
liked
detail
bit-
that was missing in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, liked the bit where he said, "Where do these guys come from?" That was good.
Yeah.
And apart from that, though, I think genuinely, like, this is one of my criticisms. Really simply, I think there was too much action in this film. I think because the thing is, he kind of has like one-on-one fights with a whole load of people.
Yes.
And it's a bit like, it would have almost been better if they just said, okay, you know, maybe, for example, I mean, like what you said about it being a dream, maybe, with the Harry-Peter fight. But, like, they could have just had, for example, a slow burn. Like, Harry, he's training to fight Peter, maybe. He's not fighting right away. He's like, I'm going to train to fight Peter. I'm going to make sure I'm really good at fighting him. And then, you know, just have, like, maybe, for example, I mean, obviously you could talk, like, if you're talking about fixing this film, it's not just going to be a few minor changes, so maybe there wouldn't even be as many people or anything like that. But if they're going to have, like, the least they could have done is not have as many action scenes and combine the action scenes and made it so it was like, you know, there was more time spent on the actual characters, not just punching each other. And to be honest, yeah, that's like, I don't think you can dislike the action in these films, because like I said, I think one of their strengths is that they're so kind of ridiculous and over the top and all that stuff. Like, I could never walk away from a hypothetical Sam Raimi Spider-Man film and say, I didn't like it because the action wasn't good. I don't think you can even have a concept of not good action, because, you know, it's just, I mean, I guess if it was boring, but, you know, if it's ridiculous, that's great. The more ridiculous, the better. But the thing is, yeah, too much of it is my really civil criticism, and probably my only criticism. I don't know if what you'd say about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think I've got anything else to add. Just, I agree.
Good. And now, finally, you know what? I just realised something. I'll tell you later, but finally, characters.
Yes, characters. So, as
So-
we said, we're going to mention
The
Spider-Man.
titular character later.
Yeah, the titular character, the title guy. So, first up,
Title Guy, that's a good superhero name. My
Title
name will
Guy.
be Title Guy.
Better than Sandman.
It's better than the Human Spider.
Yeah,
What's your name? The Human Spider. That's a good scene.
so
When
many
he
good
gets his
scenes.
name at the wrestling thing. Anyway, characters. Who you got, Luke?
So, Kirsten Dunst is first up as Mary Jane Watson, a Broadway
Um,
actress and Peter's girlfriend. Again, we've talked about Mary Jane a bit, but yeah, she's happy, now she's sad, and yeah,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the movie, she's a damsel in distress. Peter has to save her. Just
Yeah.
same
You know what,
old,
Luke?
same
I'm going
old.
to tell you my important fan theory. No, not fan theory. So someday, when I'm a studio executive, and I'm in charge of making the Spider-Man films, this would be one of the things I'd change. I think they're possibly going in this direction with the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, but maybe not. I don't know. Have Mary Jane be like a friend of Peter at first, and then that way, like, I don't know, because it's like the one thing that I do remember is there's a scene in the second film. I remember this from a Cinema Sins episode where Mary Jane describes Peter as her best friend, and she's obviously not his best friend. But yeah, I like the idea of Peter Parker and Mary Jane being friends before they get into a relationship, because yeah, it's just,
Makes it more meaningful.
yeah, like, it's kind of cute what they have going on in the first one. It's like, see that? She's the perfect girl next door who I want to date, blah, 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 blah. Like, she's literally a girl next door.
Literally, yeah.
But then they're just like, oh, I don't really know what to do with her now, because they're kind of, like, close or something. So yeah, it's unfortunate, basically, that they just didn't, I don't know, they just, something clearly went wrong. They were like, okay, now they're sort of together, so how are we going to do this? We're just going to have them, just, like, how, it's just so stupid. Yeah, just...
Stupid.
Yeah, like, it would have been good if, like, if Gwen Stacy was, like, introduced earlier, and then they could have had, you know, her happening, and then she dies, and then Mary Jane could get in there. Perfect.
Mhm.
Great.
How many times do you think Mary Jane screams throughout the 3 movies? See, if I said over under 38, what would you say?
I think I'd say probably under 38, because I feel like, it happens quite a bit, but, like, the thing is, she does, like, if I'm thinking correctly, I feel like she does, like, one big scream every now and then, so she's kind of like, ah! Like, so
I
she
don't know.
falls somewhere, she's like, ah! And
I
then,
think in that end scene, she definitely racked up about 15.
yeah, that's probably true, actually. But the thing is, like, it was just like, yeah, each time it fell, it was like, ah!
Maybe it just went on for so long that I thought it
Yeah,
was more than that.
it's a long scream, I think, is
Yeah.
the problem.
Oh, well, I was talking about the scene, but yes,
Oh, sorry, it's a long screen.
yes. James Franco as Harry Osborn / New Goblin. That's what they've labelled him
Yeah,
as.
yeah, I know. He's called New Goblin, which makes no sense because I don't know. I feel like his actual name in the comics is Hobgoblin, but that could be a lie. So don't hold me to that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, again, the problem. Like, I feel like the problem with a lot of these characters is just not enough attention paid to them. Like, Harry Osborn had, like, a basis for making him an interesting character, but it was kind of just like it was like, they didn't care, or it was just like, you know, he just sits around moping, and then he gets amnesia, and it's like, he doesn't really develop. He doesn't really... I mean, literally, it's the two worst things that a narrative can have, amnesia and a sudden reveal.
Yeah. Also, James Franco has a lazy eye, and I think I need to point that out, because it was when he's in the cafe with Peter, you can notice it. Like, one of his eyes is just not looking at Peter, and I was like, oh.
That shows how good of a villain he is. He's always got his eye on something else, you know?
Yes.
That's his ability. Look,
Yeah.
my name is Lazy Eye.
Mate, that wouldn't be a bad villain, actually. Lazy eye.
Yeah, I feel like people would call it ableist, you know, bloody SJWs.
Bloody SJWs, eh? So, we got Thomas Hayden Church as Flint / Marco / Sandman.
Again, literally an example of just not enough time. Like
Yeah.
I said, I mean, I think the classic kind of counter, or kind of comparison is to Dr. Octopus. Because, you know, Flint Marco's whole thing is basic, apart from the, you know, he killed Uncle Ben stuff, which less said about that the better. His main thing is he needs to get money to take care of his daughter. Which, you know, obviously Dr. Octopus, he needs money to do his fusion thing. But in the Dr. Octopus, it's like everything he does makes sense. You can be like, okay, he does this first of all, then he needs to do this, he needs to do another thing after that. Flint Marco is like, he does this, then he hides from some policemen, then he sees a bank car going by, and he's like, hey, it's a bank car. And then suddenly Venom's like, hey, you want to kill Spider-Man? He's like, yeah, I mean, that sounds like it would get me money to take care of my daughter. And Venom's like, yeah, right, I mean, obviously, yeah, definitely. I mean, get money to get, yeah, of course, that's what you want, money to take care of your daughter, which you'll get by killing Spider-Man. And Sandman's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's the plot.
Hey, do you want to team up? Sandman's like, I mean, I'm not sure what'll be in it for me, but yeah, okay, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, just not caring. I mean, like, yeah, like I said, I mean, obviously with Sandman, well, there was some interesting stuff, like he had more of a backstory, but just not, no. Anyway, what's next?
Topher Grace as Eddie Brock / Venom.
So, I've already said I kind of liked how much of an arsehole Topher Grace was in the Daily Bugle, and he's like, hey, babe, hey, how's it going? I've got all this stuff for you. I'm great. My name's Topher Grace, but you can call me Topher Great. I like when he said that scene. I mean, that quote.
It was a good moment.
But I mean, I mean, in theory, I think maybe this character could have been fine in a hypothetical Spider-Man 4 or whatever else. Like, I don't know how much I explicitly hated about the character itself. Just the way it's slotted into this film, and I guess some of the I don't know. What's your thoughts?
No, yeah, I think obviously not enough time, like we mentioned before, with Sandman and Goblin, and yeah, he's like the whole Venom thing is just like forgotten about and then brought back, and yeah, it's just like kind of tacked on at the end. He's like, oh, now this guy's become Venom. Topher Grace or Eddie Brock is now Venom, and yeah, I mean, I don't really. Did he really need to get Mary Jane, by the way, as a hostage? When he just fought Peter Parker by himself? I don't know if that was necessary.
Yeah, I'm not sure why people get, like, it seems like Mary Jane being a hostage always has, like, a very kind of minor impact on the story.
Yeah, it's
At
just
the
like,
end of
oh,
it, it's
we
always
need
just
Mary Jane
it's a
to be
fight
saved.
between...
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, it almost always ends up that, like, Mary Jane gets saved, and then Peter Parker nearly gets defeated anyway. And it's like, okay, well, they could have really just, like, skipped. They could have just nearly defeated Peter Parker. And if they'd spent less time working on kidnapping Mary Jane, and more, I meant less time becoming a qualified taxi driver, getting a taxi, and then waiting outside Mary Jane's house forever.
Yeah.
And more time training to fight Peter Parker.
Yeah, he wouldn't have lost. Bryce Dallas Howard is Gwen Stacy up next. So the thing is with this character, maybe she had to be in there for the plot. I never had to think about it, but generally I think that if you're doing a movie that features Gwen Stacy, that it shouldn't have as many new characters. So basically what I'm saying is, like, if there was a theoretical Spider-Man 4, she should be in that. Like, she shouldn't be, like, bunched in with all these other characters. Like,
Hmm.
her and Peter getting together, that should be a big thing, because obviously she's also
Yeah.
another of Peter's love interests.
I could imagine fans kind of being a bit annoyed because it's kind of like, I guess what they said is, hey, we need, like, I don't even know if they were planning on bringing Gwen Stacy back. I think there's a chance they were just like, hey, we need Mary Jane to be angry at Peter. How can we do that? What if Peter is with another girl? Okay, who's another one of Peter's girlfriends in the comics? Gwen Stacy. Yeah, sure, she sounds good. I feel like that was literally the thought process.
Yes. Rosemary Harris as May Parker. There's nothing really to say on this. She's very old.
Wait, I thought her first name was Aunt and her second name was May.
Aunt May, yes. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Fantastic,
Just
wonderful, perfect,
sensational.
every single.
He's like, that's the thing, you can't do a J. Jonah Jameson they didn't do it in Amazing Spider-Man, and they didn't do him in Spider-Man Homecoming, although that might change in the future,
Yeah.
but that's how
I don't
good
know.
of a job that he did. Like, in the remakes of Spider-Man, you can't do J. Jonah Jameson because nobody's going to top it.
Here's a serious question for you, okay?
Yeah.
And I know you're not going to have an answer, but I'm going to force you. You're going to have to give an answer. Pick the person who you think should play J. Jonah Jameson. You know, just the person that you think could even come close. I mean, even
Have you
even,
got an
sorry.
answer?
I have a weird answer.
That's the thing, I'm going to have to think about this a lot.
See, my answer, if you've seen the IT Crowd,
Yes.
you know, I think the actor's name's Chris Morris, and he is the first boss, or the boss in the first
Yeah, he
season.
commits suicide.
Like, okay, it's really weird, but like the way he acts reminds me of J. Jonah Jameson. Now, obviously, you've got a question. You say, hold a minute. So does that mean is J. Jonah Jameson going to be British, or can this actor Chris? I've forgotten his name again. I think it's Chris Morris.
Chris Morris, yeah. I know who Chris Morris is, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anyway, so can Chris Morris do an American accent? Will he still sound the same? But in my head, I just think like, I just think of that character in the IT Crowd, the way he's very shouty, the way he's like, you might think that this is the picture of my family, but it's the A-team. I don't know, I can just imagine him going, get me some pictures of Spider-Man. But it probably wouldn't work. What do you think?
Nah, probably not. Nobody's going to top that, are they? And I think we're done apart from the butler, Michael.
Oh, I've got one. What about Gary Oldman, okay? Because now J.J. Simmons is Commissioner Gordon in the DC universe.
Okay.
So, obviously, Gary Oldman should become J. Jonah Jameson.
That makes total sense. Bernard the butler, Michael. Up next. So after watching this, I realised that this guy, Bernard the butler, actually, he's the real villain. He lets Harry suffer, thinking that his best friend killed his dad, even though with one conversation, he could just say that, oh yeah, no, it wasn't Harry who killed your dad.
Yeah, I don't know that. Did he
Yeah,
I can only think that he just like did he not know what was going on with?
Yeah, like Harry's like going mental. He's like lost everything. He's lost his friend and Peter, and he's on this quest to kill Spider-Man, and he's mental and he's psychopathic, and because obviously he falsely believes that Spider-Man killed his dad. Then Bernard just speaks and was like, oh yeah, no, it was his dad killed himself. It's like, why didn't you say something earlier? Like, you could have saved Harry a lot of pain, and I mean, maybe he doesn't like Spider-Man. I don't know. Maybe he wants to see Spider-Man dead. But he's like, hey, maybe you don't kill Spider-Man, the guy who's trying to clean up crime around the city. Maybe you should do that. Because he's actually not a murderer. But whatever. That's just stupid.
I actually have a serious point. I only just thought of now. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, in the original Spider-Man, the Green Goblin becomes crazy because of the effects of the serum.
Yeah.
So surely James Franco, Harry Osborn, because he uses the super soldier serum too. So surely he should be crazy anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why it seems like the film acts as if, for example, he is angry at Peter for a reason, and then once that reason is shown to be invalid, he's no longer angry, and it's like, hold on a minute, that wouldn't have worked with the original.
He got knocked on his head, so that stopped him being crazy.
I think that knocked the craziness out of him.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The amnesia.
I'll tell you what, Luke, never become a psychiatrist. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch you into that massive metal pipe. Anyway, is that all the characters?
That is all the characters apart from the titular character,
Spider-Man. All right, Luke, so I
Spider-Man.
want to talk. Do you remember when we were doing the Marvel films, we were talking about the three main superheroes?
Yes, Superman,
And
Batman, and
what-
Spider-Man.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to ask what they were. Anyway, so I want to talk about which superhero do you think is the best of those three superheroes? There's no wrong answer.
My-
Which superhero do you think is the best of those three superheroes?
My favourite superhero is Spider-Man.
See,
Out
mine
of all
is-
superheroes as well.
Yeah, mine is also Spider-Man, and I want to talk about why I think that might be the case. And I've got three basic reasons, okay?
Okay.
Number one, I think Spider-Man is the ultimate escapism because it can happen to anyone. And there's two things I mean by this. Number one,
Anyone can get bitten by a spider.
so here's the thing, okay? Batman is not good escapism, and I'll tell you why. Because Batman works hard to achieve his success, and nobody wants to be told that. No one wants to be told, oh, if you work hard, you can become a crime-fighting badass. Because I don't want to work hard. You know, I want to just get it magically handed down to me.
Yeah.
So,
Imagine Batman's day-to-day life as well.
exactly. Like Batman, like if you ever seen like those bodybuilders and like their whole thing is, you know, every Sunday I make some salmon and some white rice and some broccoli and I put it in a takeaway container and then for the rest of the week I microwave these 8 times a day and eat them. And that's literally their life. That's how you be that's how you be a buff dude.
Yeah,
It's not worth
that's
it.
not
Anyway,
what we want, do we?
Yeah. But then the other thing is, like, this is why I really am against the whole, and I think we've mentioned this before, the whole Spider-Man invents the web-slinging technology, and I'm against the whole Spider-Man's a genius thing. And it's like, I think the Tom Holland films are good, but I can't get behind the whole Spider-Man's a genius thing, because I like the idea of, like, you know, if you're just a random kid, you know, who's maybe you're not that popular, or there's a girl at school and you like her but you don't like her, you can sit there and fantasize, you know, maybe one day I'll have these, you know, I'll get bitten by a radioactive spider and I'll be like Spider-Man, and except for the fact that I don't live in New York, so there aren't any skyscrapers around me, I'll be super powered. But of course nowadays, with this whole he invented the web slinger, he's a super genius thing, it's like now it's crushing people's hope. Nobody can ever dream of that because suddenly superheroes, I think, to be honest, it's setting extreme expectations for unrealistic standards for superheroes.
Yeah, I often
Yeah,
do think about the
I'm
web
really
slinging
against
thing.
it.
Sorry, Michael.
It
just
does,
quickly.
yeah.
And
That's
just,
fine.
yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you think about it, surely, I mean, of course, we've had some unrealistic technology in movies that are based in the present and in the real world. Like, you just have to watch Mission Impossible movies for that. But if you look at just his web slinging thing, surely the fact that if he made it in his like garage or his basement, surely then somebody in real life could make it, and that kind of does remove the superpower ability, because that is a very important component of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I would happily just take that and, you know, potentially die when I fell.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other thing I don't like, and this is another thing that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 introduced, is the idea of like Peter having some kind of secret clandestine past. Like one of the things in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the mystery of Peter's parents, which is just bullshit. Like, I know. Because then it's like, oh no, you've got to have this mystery to your life. I like the idea. And so, like I say, like the point I'm making is the great thing about Spider-Man is he could literally be anyone.
He's just
He
normal.
doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to be a rich guy. He doesn't have to be a guy with loads of self-discipline who's going to eat salmon and white rice. And,
Or an alien.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be an alien. He doesn't have to have this secret clandestine past his family. He doesn't have to be handsome or whatever. And anyone can be like, oh yeah, I could be Spider-Man. That makes him a good villain. Second thing,
Hero,
he's not
you said
OP.
villain.
Sorry. You know, okay, that's what I was going to mention. Yeah, I accidentally wrote why Spider-Man is a great villain on because earlier in the podcast I said, hey, I just realized something, and then I was like, no, I'll say it in a sec. Anyway, so that's the thing. So second of all, he's not OP, which of course stands for overpowered. So Superman,
He's
some
OP.
people don't like Superman. I think because they're like, oh, he's too OP. I think Superman's interesting, but the thing with Superman is it always has to be the world at stake. Like it's like, oh, you know, can Superman save the world? Which is interesting enough, but the problem is like what makes Spider-Man great is it's like he not only has like limitations, like, you know, he does run into people who he can't defeat all the time, but also his powers are like more interesting. So it's not like, for example, Superman could just punch someone and they're dead, but Peter Parker, he has to use his web slingers, he has to use his agility because he's not invulnerable. he has to actually fight. Like, Superman doesn't need to fight. Superman could just stand there and let someone punch him in the face and then just blow their face off.
Mm-hmm.
But Spider-Man, he has to be inventive. He has to actually use his unique abilities to his advantage. And I like that.
Yeah.
And and finally, the other one is that he does have a lot of other adversity. And again, this is something that I think these films do. I think the first two aren't great at it, actually. I think the first films mainly excel in kind of the villain territory, and they do have some problems with the Mary Jane stuff and things like that, and even the Harry Osborn stuff to some extent in the first two. This film, obviously, even better, even worse. Sorry. The one thing I'll say that's good about this film is it kind of evens out the quality of the villain storyline and the personal storyline. They're both equally as disappointing, but but it is good that it kind of has like a lot of other adversity. For example, I don't think you can make a Spider-Man film without thinking to yourself, what are his girlfriends up to? What are his future girlfriends up to? And if you're going to do a good Spider-Man film, you need to be thinking, okay, so is he going to be, who's he going to be dating? He's going to be dating Gwen Stacy? Is he going to be dating Mary Jane? And obviously not necessarily they're going to start dating that film, but, they will eventually start dating, and then of course you have then Gwen Stacy's going to die, so what's he going to do then? And how's Uncle Ben going to die? And, why does he become Spider-Man? Oh, he wants to, obviously the great thing that we all love is Peter Parker wants to get a car to impress Mary Jane. So he signs up for a wrestling thing that will help him get a car, and then he knocks the guy out really quickly, and then he doesn't get all the money he wants, and then he lets the guy go, and then it's just it's so perfectly slotted together, all of just how each thing, and it all comes from just his general adversity. Like everyone else, like with Batman, it's like, somebody killed my parents, and I got attacked by bats. And it's just I don't know, I like the fact with Peter, it's like he has problems, but they're kind of relatable problems.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. He's got problems, but, they're not the most ridiculous problems in the world.
Yeah,
I believe that. I've never been attacked by bats, but I have had girls who I've liked that haven't liked me back. So beautiful.
Aww.
And those are my... oh, yeah. Those are my 3 reasons why Spider-Man is the best villain. Why do I keep doing that? Spider-Man is the best hero.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man's the best superhero because it's cool the way he shoots his web and flies between the buildings. Just, seems
I think
a
that's
really
cool too.
fun thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's cool because he's like Assassin's Creed before there was Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, good point. So yeah, I think we're done, Michael, with Spider-Man 3, and all that's left to do is state our conclusion. So I'll go first. So you mentioned right at the beginning, Michael, the opening credits, and that they went on for far too long. I don't think they went on too long, because for me, the best part was the opening credits, because it reminded me of how good the first 2 movies were. This one is a mess. It is an absolute shambles, and I want to take out a quote that I found from Wikipedia. And here it is. So with so many additions in terms of characters and so on, Sargent, and this is one of the guys who wrote the script, Sargent soon found his script so complex that he considered splitting it into 2 films, but abandoned the idea when he could not create a successful intermediate climax. So there you go. Even the script writer realised how much just a mess this script was. There's also a load of weird stuff that happens with Peter, and just general shit stuff like nitpicks that I don't think were in the first 2 movies. It's like they didn't pay attention to detail. For example, like the taxi thing with Ed Brock. It's like, okay, just what is that like? That's just shit. And I don't think that kind of thing was in the first 2 Spider-Man movies in this trilogy. So Sam Raimi just clearly packed it in, I think, in this movie. He just was like, yeah, whatever. I'm just not gonna pay attention to the detail or the amount of coincidences that are in this. It's just stuff's just gonna happen, and deal with it basically. It's such a come down from the first 2 movies, unfortunately. I just didn't like it. It's just not very good. It's just not very entertaining. It's just a mess in general. So I think I'm going to have to give this, Michael, although it did have some good moments, I will concede, but those were very, very much few and far between. So I think I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10 for Spider-Man 3. There you go.
Okay. It's an interesting question. I want to talk about the first two first of all, mostly because I actually decided to put them on my little chart, just because I thought, we're probably not going to talk about them, so I'm going to put them on here. So the first two films are just perfect.
Second one especially.
Yeah, they are goofy. They have silly moments. They don't take themselves seriously. I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but it's something that I like to appeal to as a point. In the late 70s, we had the Superman films. In the late 80s and early 90s, we had the Batman films. And in the early 2000s, we had the two good Spider-Man films. Each time, interestingly enough, a set of two films. The first two Superman films were good. First two Batman films were good. First two Spider-Man films were good. But what I like about them is that they all feel very kind of like unique. Like they feel like they're timeless. You can watch.
They hold up, yeah.
Yeah, you can watch Batman 89 and Batman Returns, and it's like, okay, this is clearly, Tim Burton's vision. It's fun. It's active. It's not so self-serious. And what I like about the first two Spider-Man films is that there's a very clear vision of Sam Raimi of, you can tell that he actually enjoyed making these films. And it wasn't like, I'm going to make, hey, what's doing well right now? Well, The Dark Knight just did really well. Let's make serious films, which is terrible. Or what's doing well right now? Hey, Marvel makes fun films. Let's make our film fun. Like Justice League. Let's have Superman tell some jokes. It's actually somebody saying, hey, for example, I even like Watchmen because at least Zack Snyder was doing his thing in Watchmen. Anyway, which of course leads me to my conclusion that I think I'm going to be fair and say that Iron Man is better than Spider-Man 2, just because I think Iron Man had the same sense of fun, but it also kind of had like some very interesting, I don't know, I just thought it was pretty good. I mean, it could go either way, but I feel like if I were to give it to Spider-Man 2, then that could easily just be my nostalgia taking over. So, and I think that Spider-Man is worse than Manchester by the Sea, but better than Deadpool. So, which puts them in the 7 and 10 slot on my list of greatest films of all time. Spider-Man 3, though, is an interesting one because there are some aspects of it I can kind of see in the same thing. So, for example, you could make an argument Spider-Man 3 is a goofy film, and obviously then you say, well, it's goofy, but maybe it takes it too far. And obviously that's the problem. Spider-Man 3 is one of those classic examples of a third film. It's a lot like Terminator 3, in that you're kind of watching it and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is simultaneously a terrible film and a brilliant parody. But the thing is, like, what it has to come down to is that there are some things in this that I like because I can see that Sam Raimi clearly had like an aspect of like, I want to still make Spider-Man films with the same sense of like, the villain always loses and the hero is a hero, and people go, it's Spider-Man coming through the sky, swinging on a web. And then he basically just got crushed by some people who said, we need Venom. And that the true Venom is the greed of Hollywood. That's the real Venom. So
that's good.
The thing is,
I like that.
I'll say this, okay? You can enjoy how kind of ridiculous and stupid this film is, and you can kind of, I don't know, I could at least mentally blank out all the things I found stupid about this film, and I don't know how much of a thing that is, but I would say this film is possibly worth another watch, just because, I mean, it sounds to me like you kind of were actively disliking watching it in a way.
Yes, definitely.
My kind of opinion on it was more like I was still having some fun watching it.
Wow, fair play.
So I'm actually going to rate this film higher than Sleepless in Seattle. And that's just because it puts it pretty much exactly halfway. So I guess that could be, if you're kind of just being literal about it, a 5 out of 10, which is probably what I'd give it actually. I'd give it a 5 out of 10, maybe so it's around, just to give you some examples, it's around Mission Impossible, Ant-Man, and Daddy's Home. So Sleeps in Seattle, Ant-Man, Daddy's Home, and Spider-Man 3, probably around that kind of area. So, and obviously my opinions on Daddy's Home were, it's stupid, it's not necessarily a good film, but, you could have some fun if it's, you're with your family and just like, hey, let's watch this film. What is it? So, and that's kind of how I feel about all those films in that area. So isn't that great consistency on my part? Spider-Man 3. You're not going to have the same experience you did with Spider-Man 1 or Spider-Man 2. but you'll probably come out of it going, well, wasn't that something?
Well, wasn't that something? Yeah. I mean, if you just want to watch it for the jazz club scene, I wouldn't blame you. Like, it's just sensational.
Yeah. You know what, though? I do think there must be a reasonably good... I would almost think there could be a good edit of this film. I think the problem is, if you did do that, it would lack the... it would still have the problem that the villains were underdeveloped.
Now, see, I
What
don't
you
think
really
you could.
need is-
I don't think you could edit this together, because I think, although it's a mess, I just think that there's a lot of just stupid moments that don't have anything to do
Yeah.
with the fact that it's a mess. So I don't think you could edit it together and it'd be good.
Yeah. I would say, I mean... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the stupid moments, like, sometimes I'll forgive them. Like, to be honest, now part of me wants to, you know, when I'm in charge of making my own Spider-Man series, part of me wants to have a scene where, you know, Gwen Stacy or whatever, whoever it is then, gets into a taxi, and it's the villain, and he's just been in a taxi the whole time, because I just think that's, like, I don't know, I mean, there's a part of you that thinks, like, when you realize it, you just think, wow, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, you could easily, I don't know, I hope that people continue to, I like, this film is a meme at this point.
Yes.
I hope that this film continues to be memed by Spider-Man films. I hope this film kind of gets an honorary position as just, like, something people draw from every now and then. You know, like, maybe in the new Venom film, Tom Hardy peels his Venom face back and looks at his face and he's like, no, don't like it. I want to just look like Venom. And then he puts it back and he's like, rah. You know, just things like that. And I'd be like, yeah, good. Well done, Spider-Man 3.
Dear me.
Good job.
Anyway, I think we're done here.
Anyway, yes.
Yes, with Spider-Man 3.
And now...
What are we doing next?
So, next week, we begin our Halloween, or hallowed evening, excitement.
Spooky Select and Reflect.
Yeah. Which is, so, of course, it's The Descent next.
Yes.
And in case anyone's forgotten, our other 3 scary films are It Follows, It, A Quiet Place.
I like how it follows. I do like that.
Yeah, It Follows. Oh, goodness me, that's so funny.
Yeah, I did it. I tried to get it that way round.
Yeah, I was trying to think if you got it right around, and I was like, yeah, you did, well done. It Follows.
Yeah.
But before that, we've got the rather, not as cleverly named The Descent, which doesn't have anything to do with It Follows or It. And you know what, Luke? We'll talk about that next week, but for now, do you want to say goodbye? Do our goodbyes?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have been selecting and reflecting on Spider-Man 3, an absolute car crash on the Spider-Man film. Sadly, who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And I've been Luke, and join us next week for The Descent.
The descent into bad superhero films is what this film would be called.
Yeah, and this has all been because of Venom, obviously, which it'll be interesting to see, actually, if Venom is actually better than Spider-Man 3. I suspect it'll be around the same level.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. The thing is, I don't think it will be as funny. I think the problem will be it will be just as bad, but serious, and it will be like you won't even be able to have fun watching it. That's my guess.
Yeah, probably.
It will be kind of like, I feel like it could be Ant-Man bad, which is possibly the worst kind of bad.
Well, yeah.
So just like, well, Ant-Man average. Really.
Ant-Man average.
See, the thing is, I do think it's worth saying Ant-Man average is still worse than Spider-Man bad.
Oh, I don't know. But I do like the term Ant-Man average, like, because of its alliteration and just perfectly describes the movie.
You know what, yeah.
It's Ant-Man.
I'm going to trademark it.
Ant-Man average.
Ant-Man average.
It's good. Anyway.
Trademark.
Yeah, that is it. Goodbye.
Bye.